Speaker, the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps.
Looks like people are walking in now to the hall. So let's give it a look. Somebody write something. Yeah, I guess we go. Somebody write something in the chat. Let me know we're live. Break from work to watch this. I mean, it's that important to me. Anyways, so a little bit of my take. I promised a little pre-speech analysis. Senator J.D. Vance, Vice President Harris are not there. It's you ask me, it's a misfortune. Both, I guess, the current and the hey Pete, good to see you. It's a misfortune that both candidates or the vice presidential candidate and the current vice president are not there, at least discharging their constitutional duties to preside over the Senate or serve as a senator. I mean, it's a little more understandable in Harris's situation, where Harris got thrown into the thrust of being a presumptive nominee over like on Sunday. But it's a little less understandable why J.D. Vance wouldn't be there. I'd hate to think that it's because of the isolationist inclinations that the Republican Party has. But yeah, that's my take right now as far as the current callouts. There was actually, I'll see if I could pull it up while we're waiting. Frank Luntz, fantastic pollster, you know, state of the art kind of icon in political reporting. He put out a tweet yesterday saying that there are about 40 something callouts of, or I would say protests of members of Congress sitting out and not attending. He said if it hits 50, the Democrats will suffer. Now, I don't know what suffer means. As far, no, let me take a step back. I don't know what he means by the Democrats will suffer. So yeah, here it is. Let's share this tab. Here you go. Frank Luntz, I'm told that 50 plus House are going to boycott the speech tomorrow. If it gets any higher than that, I expect it to have an impact on the 2024 vote. Here's what I said. If it gets to be any more than 50, I predict the Democrats suffer in the polls. VP is already fleeing her obligations. Kamala is pandering to the wrong crowd. It's switch back to the stream, but the crowd she should be pandering to is not the extremist left that want Israel to stop existing. The crowd she should be pandering to is the middle. The middle is going to be her path to victory. It's not going to be the extremist left. The extremist left aren't really going anywhere. The one argument I could see is her trying to make sure they turn out, maybe, but I don't see. But then they would only make an impact in Michigan. She would lose Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, maybe parts of Arizona and New Mexico, where support of Israel is remarkably well. So there's that. You just saw Senator Romney being featured, and another thing. Let me see here if I can pull this up. It looks like they're getting themselves together, though. Anything else you guys want me to discuss and give my opinion? I'd be more than happy. You just throw it in the chat. So there's another development where usually the president pro tempore of the Senate, 99% of the time, steps in and presides over the Senate. That's what happened last time in 2014. Netanyahu really threw salt in the eyes of Obama. So right there, who you see presiding over the joint session is Ben Cardin. He's actually the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee. Traditionally, after the president pro tempore, is the oldest senator, or oldest by years of experience, not exactly by age. So Ben Cardin, I'm not sure if he was selected on that criteria, but the pro tempore, I'm not quite sure what their issue was. I hesitate to think that it was ideological. Um, we'll try to get that answer for you by the time this thing starts. President pro tempore is actually Patty Murray. Yeah, yeah, she's skipping out of ideological. Yeah, he's skipping it based on she's skipping it based on ideological principles. And yeah, Ben Cardin's retiring, Pete, and he's he's a old timer Democrat. It's what I think in general. I think that President Biden is one of the Democrats that lived through both the birth of Israel and the cusp of
Speaker,
annihilation.
the Prime Minister of the State of Israel.
Yeah, so here he is. He's going to be shaking everybody's hand. And let me just finish that point. Biden and people like Ben Cardin, uh, they've seen Israel on the cusp of annihilation through the 6 Day War, the Yom Kippur War, Lebanon wars, intifadas, where a lot of the left actually was the base of support for Israel. They were holding that really dear to their heart, and right now you see Israel has become the powerful one in the struggle, so that the right now embrace Israel, both because they embrace usually convention and power and power. So where do I see Netanyahu taking the speech? I see him taking it as, we are going to be we'll destroy terror. You guys know terror. Um, there's a deal. Hamas has to come to it. I mean, Israel already stamped Biden's approval for it. Oh wow, no handshake with Schumer. No, he's going to meet with Schumer, Jeffries, the Speaker, and Mitch McConnell. Or I guess he already did earlier because he had a joint press conference with the Speaker earlier. So let's see how this goes. You let me know. Did you hear the audio earlier for the video? The competition of who's gonna, how long each person's gonna clap to get more Israel points.
His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel.
Right, here we are. I actually remember from the 2014 speech how large font the speech was. And that stack of papers looked exactly like it did. All right, let's get here, baby.
Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Senator Ben Cardin, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries,
And Senator with some
Senate
hate.
Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senators, members of Congress, distinguished guests. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the profound honor of addressing this great citadel of democracy for the fourth time.
I really wonder what they installed that we're not hearing applause, because it's across multiple channels.
We meet today at a crossroads of history. Our world is in upheaval. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization.
Oh, I thought he'd be, yeah, he's championing the whole terror thing and he's anti-terror. He's fighting terror for America. I highly think that's where he's going with that.
It's a clash between those who glorify death and those who sanctify life. For the forces of civilization to triumph, America and Israel must stand together.
Not like it side's problem, so to speak. I'm trying to see all perspectives here. Trying to avoid the narrative of Israel's fight to fight, not the other way around.
Because when we stand together, something very simple happens. We win, they lose.
Sort of want to hear that phrase, don't you?
And my friends, I came to assure you today of one thing: we will win. Ladies and gentlemen, like December 7th, 1941, and September 11th, 2001, October 7th is a day that will forever live in infamy. It was the Jewish holiday of Simchat Torah. It began as a
say,
perfect
you know
day,
terror,
not a
I know
cloud in
terror.
the sky. Thousands of young Israelis were celebrating at an outdoor music festival. And suddenly, at 6:29 a.m., as children were still sleeping soundly in their beds in the towns in suddenly heaven turned into hell. 3,000 Hamas terrorists stormed into Israel. They butchered 1,200 people from 41 countries, including 39 Americans. Proportionately, compared to our population size, that's like 20 9/11s in one day. And these monsters, they raped women, they beheaded men, they burned babies alive, they killed
Things the
parents
Hamas
in front
press
of their
says is a
children
lie.
and children in front of their parents. They dragged 255 people, both living and dead, into the dark dungeons of Gaza. Israel has already brought home 135 of these hostages, including 7 who were freed in daring rescue operations.
7 that were freed in the IDF operation, which was a blessing of an operation. That was remarkably done.
One of those freed hostages, Noor Gamani, is here in the gallery, sitting near my wife, Sarah. On the morning,
She just lost her mother. Yeah, she just lost her mother, victim to cancer.
on the morning of October 7th, the entire world saw Noah's look of desperation as she was violently abducted to Gaza on the back of a motorcycle. I met Noah's mother, Leora, a few months ago. She was dying of cancer. She said to me, "Prime Minister, I have one final wish. I wish to hug my daughter Noah one last time before I die." 2 months ago, I authorized a breathtaking commando rescue operation. Our special forces, including a heroic officer named Arnon Zmora, who fell in this battle, rescued Noah and 3 other hostages. Noah, I think it's one of the most moving things. When Noah was reunited with her mother, Leora, and her mother's last wish came true. Noah, we're so thrilled to have you with us today. Thank you.
In coverage of Israeli family hostages
Many
earlier.
hostage families
And they
are
said,
also here with us today,
We're tired of him tokenizing us.
including Eliyahu Bibas. Eliyahu Bibas is the grandfather of those 2 beautiful red-headed boys, the Bibas boys, toddlers. And they were taken hostage with their mother and and Eliyahu's son. The entire family was taken hostage. 2 beautiful red-haired children taken hostage. What monsters. And with us also is Iris Chaim, whose son Yotam bravely escaped Hamas captivity with 2 other Israelis, and tragically they were killed making their way back to our lines. We have with us also the families of American hostages. They're here.
Is the point he has to drive home. Shame on America for not riling up to bring Americans home. The biggest question is he tokenizing them just to keep his premiership and making the war longer than it needs to
The pain
be?
these families have endured is beyond words. I met with them again yesterday, and I promised them this: I will not rest until all their loved ones are home, all of them.
Just do me a favor, give me a thumbs up on this live stream. It helps the algorithm.
As we speak, we're actively engaged in intensive efforts to secure their release, and I'm confident that these efforts can succeed. Some of them are taking place right now. I want to thank President Biden for his tireless efforts on behalf of the hostages and for his efforts to the hostage families as well. I thank President Biden for his heartfelt support for Israel after the savage attack on October 7th. He rightly called Hamas sheer evil. He dispatched 2 aircraft carriers to the Middle East to deter a wider war.
Like I
And
said,
he came to Israel
classic
to stand with us during our
Democrat.
darkest hour, a visit that will never be forgotten.
He started his service in 1960 with Golden Mayer. I mean, his day with Israel goes back.
President Biden and I have known each other for over 40 years. I want to thank him for half a century of friendship to Israel and for being, as he says, a proud Zionist. Actually, he's
Democrat will say that. It's unfortunate that it'll dwindle, but
my friends, for more
there's
than 9
nothing wrong with
months,
being a Zionist.
Israel's soldiers have shown boundless courage. With us today, is Lieutenant Avichai Reuven.
Gonna hit a nerve. A brown Israeli soldier.
Avichai is an officer in the Israeli paratroopers. His family immigrated to Israel from Ethiopia. In the early hours of October 7th, Avichai heard the news of Hamas's bloody rampage. He put on his uniform, grabbed his rifle, but he didn't have a car. So he ran 8 miles to the front lines of Gaza to defend his people.
Talk about dedication. I mean, do you think the American youth can actually find that within them to go and do the same thing? Run 8 miles to the front line.
You heard that right. He ran 8 miles, came to the front lines, killed many terrorists, and saved many, many lives. Avichai, we all honor your remarkable heroism. Another Israeli is with us here today, and he's stand up right next to Avichai. This is Master Sergeant Ashraf al-Bakhiri. Ashraf is a Bedouin soldier from the Israeli Muslim community of Raat. On October 7th, Ashraf too killed many terrorists. First, he defended his comrades in the military base, and he then rushed to defend the neighboring communities, including the devastated community of Kibbutz Be'eri. Like Ashraf,
I want to see how he's going to bring this back to
the Muslim
America.
soldiers of the IDF fought alongside their Jewish, Druze, Christian, and other comrades in arms with tremendous bravery. A third hero, Lieutenant Asa Sofer, is also here with us. Asa fought as an officer in the Tank Corps, and he was wounded in battle. He was wounded in battle while protecting his fellow soldiers from a grenade. He lost his right arm and the vision in his left eye. He's recovering, and incredibly, within a short time, Asa will soon return to active duty as a commander of a tank company.
Could be a commander of a tank. Wow. Okay. I thought he'd be disqualified after something like that. But if you guys can actually see the conversation I'm having with Pete in the comments about the patriotism of current
I just
youth,
learned there is a fourth hero here,
sad thing.
Lieutenant Jonathan Ben Chamo, who lost a leg in Gaza and continued to fight.
This is the conviction of Israel, guys. This is the conviction of Israel.
My friends, these are the soldiers of Israel, unbowed, undaunted, unafraid.
To tell you based on first-hand experience, that line is so true. I believe Netanyahu to be a liar, but that line is rings so true to me. People around my
As
age,
the
my
Bible
upbringing,
says, Am kelavi yakum. They shall rise like lions. They have risen like lions. The lions of Judah, the lions of Israel.
the applause. It's I feel it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the men and women of the IDF come from every corner of Israeli society, every ethnicity, every color, every creed, left and right, religious and secular. All are imbued with the indomitable spirit of the Maccabees, the legendary Jewish warriors of antiquity. With us today is Yechiel Leiter, the father of one of those Maccabees. Yechiel's father escaped the Holocaust and found refuge in America. As a young man, Yechiel moved to Israel and raised a family of 8 children. He named his eldest son, Moshe, after his late father. Moshe became an exemplary officer in one of our elite commando units. He served with distinction for 2 decades while raising 6 beautiful children of his own. On October 7th, Moshe volunteered to return to combat. 4 weeks later, he was killed when a booby-trapped mine exploded in a tunnel shaft right next to a mosque. At his son's funeral, Yechiel said this: "If the state of Israel had not been established after the Holocaust, the image engraved in our collective memory would have been the photograph of that helpless Jewish boy in the Warsaw Ghetto holding his hands up in the air with Nazi rifles pointed at him. But because of the birth of Israel," Yechiel continued, "because of the courage of soldiers like my son Moshe, the Jewish people are no longer helpless in the face of our enemies." Yechiel, please rise so we can honor your son's sacrifice. And I pledge to you and to all the bereaved families of Israel, some of whom are in this hall today, the sacrifice of your loved ones will not be in vain.
Yeah, the sacrifice would be for what? By the way, Pete, I'm in complete agreement with you. He should have been alert. And he's been taking active measures not to have a administrative hearing on what happened on 10/7.
It will not be in vain, because for Israel, never again must never be an empty promise. It must always remain a sacred vow. And after October 7th, never again is now. My friends, defeating our brutal enemies requires both courage and clarity. Clarity begins by knowing the difference between good and evil. Yet incredibly, many anti-Israel protesters, many choose to stand with evil. They stand with Hamas. They stand with rapists and murderers. They stand with people who came into the kibbutzim, into a home. The parents hid the children, the 2 babies in the attic, in a secret attic. They murdered the families, the parents. They found the secret latch to the hidden attic, and then they murder the babies. These protesters stand with them. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Okay, that's all false. It never happened. I have no idea how people can live with themselves that way, but yeah, if it's good for Israel, they delegitimize it right away, instinctively. Disgusting.
They refuse to make the simple distinction between those who target terrorists and those who target civilians, between the democratic state of Israel and the terrorist thugs of Hamas. We recently learned from the National Security Director, U.S. Director of National Intelligence, that Iran is funding and promoting anti-Israel protests in America. They want to disrupt America. So these protesters burn American flags even on the 4th of July. And I wish to salute the fraternity brothers at the University of North Carolina who protected the American flag against these anti-Israel protesters.
Poor Pete. He's not. He didn't say anything about innocent civilians. He's just saying that they're persecuting a war where he's defending himself, or where Israel's defending themselves. Now, by bringing in the American campus protectors of the American flag, he's trying to politicize it, because that's a very Republican talking point.
For all we know, Iran is funding the anti-Israel protests that are going on right now outside this building. Not that many, but they're there, and throughout the city. Well, I have a message for these protesters. When the tyrants of Tehran, who hang gays from cranes and murder women for not covering their hair, are praising, promoting, and funding you, you have officially become Iran's useful idiots.
That far is true. Our enemies seek to divide us because that's all they have left. They can't do it militarily. They're trying to do it ideologically, and they're succeeding. They have all-time user highs on TikTok, where 52-1 is pro-Palestine, or I would say anti-Israel content, pro-Israel content.
Some of these protesters, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. Some of these protesters hold up signs proclaiming gays for Gaza. They might as well hold up signs saying chickens for KFC. These protesters chant from the river to the sea, but many don't have a clue what river and what sea they're talking about.
Wall Street Journal report. And,
they not only get an F in geography, they get an F in history. They call Israel a colonialist state. Don't they know that the land of Israel is where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob prayed, where Isaiah and Jeremiah preached, and where David and Solomon ruled?
The fact that his platform says from the river to the sea, but with a convenient incompletion.
For nearly 4,000 years, the land of Israel has been the homeland of the Jewish people. It's always been our home. It will always be our home. It's not only the campus protesters who get it wrong. It's also the people who run those campuses. 80 years after the Holocaust, 80 years after the Holocaust, the presidents of Harvard, Penn, and I'm ashamed to say my alma mater, MIT, couldn't bring themselves to condemn the calls for the genocide of Jews. You remember what they said? They said, it depends on the context. Well, let me give these befuddled academics a little context. Anti-Semitism is the world's oldest hatred. For centuries, the massacre of Jews was always preceded by wild accusations. We were accused of everything from poisoning wells, to spreading plagues, to using the blood of slaughtered children to bake Passover matzahs. These preposterous anti-Semitic lies led to persecution, mass murder, and ultimately to history's worst genocide, the Holocaust. Now, just as malicious lies were leveled for centuries at the Jewish people, malicious lies are now being leveled at the Jewish state. No, don't applaud. Listen. The outrageous slanders that paint Israel as racist and genocidal are meant to delegitimize Israel, to demonize the Jewish state, and to demonize Jews everywhere. And no wonder we've witnessed an appalling rise of anti-Semitism in America and around the world. My friends, whenever and wherever we see the scourge of anti-Semitism, we must unequivocally condemn it and resolutely fight it, without exception.
Well, I have a friend who's also a reporter. He just put out something saying, this speech is basically every zinger somebody put out on Twitter for the past 9 months. I just replied to her saying, well, yeah, nothing of substance yet.
And don't be fooled when the blood libels against the Jewish state come from people who wear fancy silk robes and speak in lofty tones about law and justice. Here's a case in point. The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court has shamefully accused Israel of deliberately starving the people of Gaza. This is utter, complete nonsense. It's a complete fabrication.
Comment on the screen. I guess he's going to go straight into
Israel has enabled more than 40,000 aid trucks to enter Gaza. That's 500,000 tons of food. And that's more than 3,000 calories for every man, woman, and child in Gaza. If there are Palestinians in Gaza who aren't getting enough food, it's not because Israel is blocking it, it's because Hamas is stealing it.
Those reports are not wrong.
So much for that lie, but here's another. The ICC prosecutor accuses Israel of deliberately targeting civilians. What in God's green earth is he talking about? The IDF just dropped millions of flyers, sent millions of text messages, made hundreds of thousands of phone calls to get Palestinian civilians out of harm's way. But at the same time, Hamas does everything in its power to put Palestinian civilians in harm's way. They fire rockets from schools, from hospitals, from mosques. They even shoot their own people when they try to leave the war zone. A senior Hamas official, Fatri Hamad, boasted, listen to this, he boasted that Palestinian women and children excel at being human shields. His words, excel at being human shields. What monstrous evil. For Israel, every civilian death is a tragedy. For Hamas, it's a strategy. They actually want Palestinian civilians to die so that Israel will be smeared in the international media and be pressured to end the war before it's won. This would enable Hamas to survive another day and, as they vowed, to carry out October 7th again and again and again. Well, I want to assure you, no matter what pressure is brought to bear, I will never allow that to happen.
Yeah, Pete, Cindy McCain definitely did question it. I'll put your comment up so people know what I'm talking about. But tons of aid made it through. The Israeli government said so. You don't really have to believe them, but by God, if you decrease it by half, it's still a lot of
The
aid.
vast majority of Americans have not fallen for this Hamas propaganda. They continue to support Israel. And I want to say thank you, America, and thank you, senators and House members who continue to support us, continue to support Israel, continue to support the truth and see through the lies. But as for the minority that may have fallen for Hamas's con's job, I suggest you listen to Colonel John Spencer. John Spencer is head of urban warfare studies at West Point. He studied every major urban conflict. I was going to say in modern history. He corrected me. No, in history.
I would believe this liar over Hamas. That too.
Israel, he said, has implemented more precautions to prevent civilian harm than any military in history and beyond what international law requires.
John Spencer. There's probably a quote from Cindy, from
That's why, despite all the
TikTok,
lies
on the
you heard,
ground. There's a lot out there.
the war in Gaza has one of the lowest ratios of combatants to non-combatants casualties in the history of urban warfare. And you want to know where it's lowest in Gaza? It's lowest in Rafah. In Rafah. Remember what so many people said? If Israel goes into Rafah, there'll be thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of civilians killed. Well, last week, I went into Rafah. I visited our troops as they finished fighting Hamas's remaining terrorist battalions. I asked the commander there, how many terrorists did you take out in Rafah? He gave me an exact number, 1,203. I asked him, how many civilians were killed? He said, Prime Minister, practically none, with the exception of a single incident where shrapnel from a bomb hit a Hamas weapons depot and unintentionally killed 24 people. The answer is practically none. You want to know why? Because Israel got the civilians out of harm's way, something people said we could never do, but we did it. These heroes here today, the heroic soldiers of Israel, should not be condemned for how they're conducting the war in Gaza. They should be commended for it.
Didn't debunk, let's say, the civilian numbers that Hamas is reporting. There's Hamas doesn't differentiate between fighters and
I want
civilians.
to thank all of you here today who forcefully opposed the false accusations of the ICC and stood up for the truth. These lies are not only libelous, they're downright dangerous. The ICC is trying to shackle Israel's hands and prevent us from defending ourselves. And if Israel's hands are tied, America is next. And I'll tell you what else is next. The ability of all democracies to fight terrorism will be imperiled. That's what's on the line. So let me assure you, the hands of the Jewish state will never be shackled. Israel will always defend itself.
Funny enough, by the ICC, they accepted over 70 legal memoranda. That's going to elongate the whole process of these arrest warrant type of things.
My friends, in the Middle East, Iran is virtually behind all the terrorism, all the turmoil, all the chaos, all the killing. And that should come as no surprise. When he founded the Islamic Republic, Ayatollah Khomeini pledged We will export our revolution to the entire world. We will export the Islamic revolution to the entire world. Now ask yourself, which country ultimately stands in the way of Iran's maniacal plans to impose radical Islam on the world? And the answer is clear.
Spot on.
It's America, the guardian of Western civilization and the world's greatest power.
Israel, if you consider Israel a proxy of America, is stopping Iran from just going ballistic, literally.
That's why Iran sees America as its greatest enemy. Last month, we heard a revealing comment, ostensibly about the war in Gaza, but about something else. It came from the foreign minister of Iran's proxy, Hezbollah, and he said this: "This is not a war with Israel. Israel," he said, "is merely a tool. The main war, the real war, is with America." Iran's regime has been fighting America from the moment it came to power. In 1979, it stormed the American embassy. It held scores of Americans hostage for 444 days. Since then, Iran's terrorist proxies have targeted America in the Middle East and beyond. In Beirut, they killed 241 US servicemen. In Africa, they bombed American embassies. In Iraq, they supplied explosives to maim and kill thousands of American soldiers. In America, they actually sent death squads. They sent death squads here to murder a former Secretary of State and a former National Security Advisor. And as we recently learned, they even brazenly threatened to assassinate President Trump. But Iran understands that to truly challenge America, it must first conquer the Middle East. And for this, it uses its many proxies, including the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas. Yet in the heart of the Middle East, standing in Iran's way, is one proud pro-American democracy, my country, the State of Israel.
I hope he's going to hit on the Abraham Accords, because now he's transitioning to the Abraham Accords were happening. So Iran was like, "Oh no, not under my watch."
That's why the mobs in Tehran chant death to Israel before they chant death to America. For Iran, Israel is first, America is next. So when Israel fights Hamas, we're fighting Iran. When we fight Hezbollah, we're fighting Iran. When we fight the Houthis, we're fighting Iran. And when we fight Iran, we're fighting the most radical and murderous enemy of the United States of America. And one more thing. When Israel acts to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons that could destroy Israel and threaten every American city, every city that you come from, we're not only protecting ourselves, we're protecting you.
In the world, you don't want a nuclear-armed Iran. Just look at what Russia can do with nukes in Ukraine. No one could stop him. No one could tell him no.
My friends, if you remember one thing from the speech, remember this: our enemies are your enemies. Our fight is your fight, and our victory will be your victory. Ladies
The
and gentlemen,
JCPOA was, but it would have expired by now.
Is in sight. Israel's defeat of Hamas will be a powerful blow to Iran's axis of
As
terror.
flawed of a deal as it was, it would have been expired.
Another part
by
of
now.
that axis, Hezbollah, attacked Israel on October 8th, a day after the Hamas attack. It has launched thousands of missiles and drones against us. 80,000 of our citizens in northern Israel evacuated their homes, becoming effectively refugees in their own land. We are committed to returning them home. We prefer to achieve this diplomatically. But let me be clear. Israel will do whatever it must do to restore security to our northern border and return our people safely to their homes.
Just so you guys have context, people were evacuated from northern Israel since October 7th, but then they were given a sort of promise by the Israeli government they'll be restored by the school year.
Last Friday, a third Iranian proxy, the Houthis, attacked Tel Aviv with a deadly drone. It exploded a few hundred feet from the American consulate, killing one person and injuring 9. On Saturday, I authorized a swift response to that attack. All our enemies should know this. Those who attack Israel will pay a very heavy price. And as we defend ourselves, on all fronts, I know that America has our back. And I thank you for it. All sides of the aisle. Thank you.
Partisan, but how much do they have their back? Pessimistic impression that
My
it's
friends, for
diminishing.
decades, America has provided Israel with generous military assistance. And a grateful Israel has provided America with critical intelligence that saved many lives. We've jointly developed some of the most sophisticated weapons on earth. I choose my words carefully. We've jointly developed some of the most sophisticated weapons on earth that help protect both our countries.
You might
And we
show
also
from
help-
Monday night.
We also
goes
help
into
keep
detail about
American boots. We help keep Americans' boots off the ground while protecting our shared interests in the Middle East.
I guess both sides should be applauding that they keep American boots off the ground. Nobody wants another war. Widely unpopular, both the electorate.
I deeply appreciate America's support, including in this current war. But this is an exceptional moment. Fast-tracking U.S. military aid can dramatically expedite an end to the war in Gaza and help prevent a broader war in the Middle East. In World War II, as Britain fought on the front lines of civilization, Winston Churchill appealed to Americans with these famous words: "Give us the tools and we'll finish the job." Today, as Israel fights on the front line of civilization, I too appeal to America. Give us the tools faster and we'll finish the job faster.
Come on, he's not going to say they're holding up aid so we can't finish the job fast enough. Don't go there.
My dear friends, the war in Gaza could end tomorrow if Hamas surrenders, disarms, and returns all the hostages. But if they don't, Israel will fight until we destroy Hamas's military capabilities, end its rule in Gaza, and bring all our hostages home.
You get those. We already heard all that.
That's what total victory means, and we will settle for nothing less. The day after we defeat Hamas, a new Gaza can emerge. My vision for that day is of a demilitarized and de-radicalized Gaza. Israel does not seek to resettle Gaza, but for the foreseeable future, we must retain overriding security control there to prevent the resurgence of terror, to ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel. Gaza should have a civilian administration run by Palestinians who do not seek to destroy Israel. That's not too much to ask. It's a fundamental thing that we have a right to demand and to receive.
The day after that he's trying to paint, but I doubt there's more specificity he's going to draw right now, because everybody's wondering what the
A
day
new
after in Gaza is
generation of
going to be.
Palestinians must no longer be taught to hate Jews, but rather to live in peace with us.
It's true, Pete. I mean, you know, many people in his cabinet
Those
are
twin
calling
words,
for something like that, but
demilitarization
they're
and
extremists.
de-radicalization. Those two concepts were applied to Germany and Japan after World War II, and that led to decades of peace, prosperity, and security. Following our victory, with the help of regional partners, the demilitarization and de-radicalization of Gaza can also lead to a future of security, prosperity, and peace. That's my vision for Gaza.
It's just not substantive. He wants to de-radicalize. That can mean anything. Anything.
Now, here's my vision for the broader Middle East. It's also shaped in part by what we saw in the aftermath of World War II. After that war, America forged a security alliance in Europe to counter the growing Soviet threat. Likewise, America and Israel today can forge a security alliance in the Middle East to counter the growing Iranian threat. All countries that are at peace with Israel and all those countries who will make peace with Israel should be invited to join this alliance. We saw a glimpse of that potential alliance on April 14th. Led by the United States, more than half a dozen nations worked alongside Israel to help neutralize hundreds of missiles and drones launched by Iran against us. Thank you, President Biden, for bringing that coalition together.
Yes, amen. Thank you. That was an unbelievable alliance, coalition building, defensive structure that was in place by Arab militaries helping Israel. Phenomenal to watch.
The new alliance I envision would be a natural extension of the groundbreaking Abraham Accords. Those accords saw peace forged between Israel and 4 Arab countries, and they were supported by Republicans and Democrats alike. We could call...
You see, he had to bring it back to the Abraham
alliance.
Accords.
I think we should call it the Abraham Alliance. I want to thank President Trump for his leadership in brokering the historic Abraham Accords.
The Democrats are standing up for this. How's that? Bipartisanship, baby. I guess both sides really like the Abraham Accords. Good for them. Good for them.
Like Americans, Israelis were relieved that President Trump emerged safe and sound from that dastardly attack on him, dastardly attack on American democracy. There is no room for political violence in democracies.
Stand for this one. Or else they'd be calling for violence to be done on them. It's hard not to. The only thing, Pete,
President Trump
would be
for all
somebody
the things
not
he
being
did for
happy
Israel,
about
from recognizing Israel's
Arab
sovereignty
countries.
over the Golan Heights, to confronting Iran's aggression, to recognizing Jerusalem as our capital and moving the American embassy there.
Yeah, the ultimate use of violence was that, and the man you're looking at is frequently blamed. Not a far-fetched thing, if you ask me.
That's Jerusalem, our eternal capital, never to be divided again.
What you said, Pete? I mean, yeah, what's their capital?
My dear
then?
friends, Democrats and Republicans, despite these times of upheaval, I'm hopeful about the future. I'm hopeful about Israel because my people, the Jewish people, emerged from the depths of hell, from dispossession and genocide. And against all odds, we restored
Genocide.
our sovereignty in our ancient homeland. We built a powerful and vibrant democracy, a democracy that pushes the boundaries of innovation for the betterment of all humanity. I'm hopeful about America because I'm hopeful about Americans. I know how much the people of this country have sacrificed to defend freedom. America will continue to be a force for light and good in a dark and dangerous world. For free peoples everywhere, America remains the beacon of liberty its extraordinary founders envisioned back in 1776. Working together, I'm confident that our two nations will vanquish the tyrants and terrorists who threaten us both. As Israel's Prime Minister, I promise you this: no matter how long it takes, no matter how difficult the road ahead, Israel will not relent, Israel will not bend. We will defend our land, we will defend our people, we will fight until we achieve victory, victory over liberty, rather victory of liberty over tyranny, victory of life over death, victory of good over evil. That's our solemn commitment.
Inspirational. I'll take it. So we have a few new people here. Feel free to introduce yourself in the chat.
The United States and our Arab partners to transform a troubled region from a backwater of repression, poverty, and war into a thriving oasis of dignity, prosperity, and
paper
peace.
is dwindling, Pete. The papers are dwindling.
In this noble mission, as in many others, Israel will always remain America's indispensable ally. Through thick and thin, in good times and in bad, Israel will always be your loyal friend and your steadfast partner. On behalf of the people of Israel, I came here today to say thank you, America. Thank you for your support and solidarity. Thank you for standing in Israel, with Israel, in our hour of need. Together we shall defend our common civilization. Together we shall secure a brilliant future for both our nations.
It's a close quick. He's almost done. You'll be able to clap from now till Timbuktu. Come on.
May God bless Israel, may God bless America, and may God bless the great alliance between Israel and America forever.
I guess that's it. I guess that's a wrap. Let's see if there's any more. Let's see if there's any more on that paper before we wrap up. I guess that's a wrap. All right, my instant take is I'm not quite sure what the purpose of the speech was. He thanked the president as it currently stands for the aid he gave. Thanks, Pete. My pleasure. Again, guys, please like and subscribe below. It helps me out for the channel's purpose. Hey, Kevin, good to see you too. Where was I? Yeah, I'm not quite sure what he gained. He definitely did a great job thanking the American government for all it's done for Israel. He definitely pitched it as in America's best interest. You see him shaking hands with Senator Manchin, Fetterman. And yeah, um, he also pitched. I mean, did he change any minds? Not that I know of. If you know what, if he actually said um, to those who didn't show up here, I would have wished to have embraced your presence, because in Israel that's what we do. We listen to people we disagree with. We don't hang them from cranes. Because he said that line. That would have been a real zinger. Um, yeah. So there was that. You just know Senator Cruz from Texas, Senator Scott from Florida. I guess wants his in with the prime minister. But oh, that's Mike Lawler. Mike Lawler from New York. Very, very pro-Islam, very into it in a heated race here. And yeah, that's my instant take. So what did he do? He sort of tried to pitch in an American way. Um, I guess he would have said, "I wish Kamala Harris the best of luck," along with President Trump and so on. Yeah, but oh, really, guys? All right, cool. So some people want me to cover the Oval Office address tonight. I'll listen. I have to go back to work. I took an hour out of work. Um, I'll see how I do tonight. For now, I'll put up the live stream, and I'll let you know. Um, yeah, Kevin. I mean, it's her constitutional duty. She didn't skip out on the Ukrainian speech. She shouldn't have skipped out on this. Um, to be fair, JD Vance doesn't hear as well. The other vice presidential candidate. Um, not just that, but the president pro tempore didn't even want to preside because of ideological reasons. Um, and that's why that's why you had so Patty Murray was like too liberal for it. Senator from Washington. She didn't preside on philosophical grounds. Ben Cardin had to preside. Yeah, JD Vance isn't running, but he's a senator, right? He was invited, maybe not in a prominent position like Harris would have been behind Netanyahu in the well, but he did have an obligation to his constituents in being there, and a show of support for a foreign leader that, frankly, I guess he has to cozy up to a lot more than Harris. Um, but I get your point. I get your point. I'm definitely, I actually just I just left a comment for Chris Cuomo saying exactly your point. JD Vance isn't the vice president, but
Purpose of the joint
Harris not
meeting
being there
having
is
been completed, the chair declares the joint meeting of the two houses now dissolved. The House will continue in recess, subject to the call of the chair.
all right. Let me cut him off. He's about done. Yeah. So just response of a wrap. We'll go back to work. And hey, listen, guys. I really I hope to I hope to see you guys tonight. Really depends on my workload. But Kevin, yeah, she's the current VP and is running for president. It's more important. Yes, it is, because for those electoral purposes. Why? If she decides to quell or to give in to the extremist left, she may win some favor over with Michigan voters, because right now her Israel policy is not so fleshed out, is not so public. But if she comes out to cave towards the extreme left, she may think, all right, I'm winning favor with them, so I'll win Michigan. But the problem is she won't only maybe win Michigan because of Dearborn, but she'll lose Pennsylvania, she'll lose Wisconsin, she'll lose probably Arizona, New Mexico, if she takes a hard line left extremist point of view on this. Um, she should have been in attendance to, number one, win the swing voters who are independent in the middle, who she needs to put her over the finish line. Number two, maybe she could forego Michigan, but those in the middle voters who are trending between Trump and some pro-Israel president, or wouldn't be so enthusiastic about Trump, I mean, she could have done it for them too. the right electoral move is to actually support Israel, because that's what most of America wants. Things that Netanyahu said were true. She can no longer cherry pick. That's correct. That's correct. And listen, even as vice president, she had duties to just discharge here and refuse to, because apparently running for president is more important than your constitutional duties. Imagine flipping that argument on its head and saying there are some duties that supersede the constitutional ones. I'm sure the Democrats would have a field day with that if it were Trump in the seat. But what do you want? Both of these parties are lunatics. Yeah. So I'm going to. All right, guys, please get your last comments in now. Please a thumbs up. Please a subscribe. That works great. If you did not look at the ticker down there, subscribe to my newsletter. That's where I let people know about what's going on my channel. I hope, again, I hope to pick this back up with the Oval Office address tonight. You'll have my independent commentary here, really putting into perspective the political implications of the speech and where Biden stands, where the country stands, especially in the context of Israel. The last time we had a Democratic president in a lame duck term was not a good outcome for Israel. And let's see what happens. So thank you. I see everybody here, and subscribe to my newsletter so that you'll get the notification about tonight. Thank you so much, everybody. Wishing you guys have a great day. Back to work, right? That would be Carter. What would be Carter, Kevin? Before I sign off, what would be Carter? Let me think. Okay, so no, I said the last time we had a lame duck Democratic, or let me rephrase. Last time we had a Democratic lame duck president, meaning I was referring to Obama, the last few months between the transition of him to Trump. It was not good for Israel at all. I remember that pretty clearly. He ended up passing through a few resolutions at the UN Security Council that were very antithetical to whatever the United States foreign policy was up until that point. Yeah, Obama and Israel was a different story. So now, instead of just the transitional period from November to January, there's from July to January, which is a lot more time. And let's see what the Democrats have to do from now till then. But I'm not too worried about Biden. His heart is with Israel. He witnessed it from its birth to the brink of annihilation till now. That's my theory. That's my thought. Kevin, Pete, everybody else, thanks so much, and hope to see you later. Back to work, guys.